Hello from Beijing, I'm Ngozi Ekeledo, and as we start to wind down here at the 2022 Winter Olympics, I want to put a spotlight and focus on athletes and mental health. Now, we're seeing these incredible athletes perform under intense amounts of pressure to try to achieve lifelong dreams. But what happens when that doesn't exactly come to fruition? We've seen it through the likes of Mikaela Shiffrin at these Winter Games as she has struggled and talked about it openly and honestly. And that's a trend we've seen continued since the Summer Games in Tokyo, where we saw Simone Biles put on center stage when it came to her mental health and competing. And it's an important focus that a lot of these athletes say they want to continue in the future. Here's what they have to say.
At the Olympics, most of us only witness and react to the end result. And when that goes unexpectedly, it's heartbreaking. For these Olympic athletes, though, the journey to the Games is much deeper than a single athletic performance.
The pressure is just immense, particularly at this event in and of itself. And so those are just things that these are human beings who happen to be incredible athletes, but they kind of have the same worries. And a lot of times we think of them as only athletes, but they're also people too. They're humans too.
It's extremely difficult. There's so many highs and there's so many lows, and breaking those patterns to try to pull yourself up to get back in a good flow is not always the easiest thing.
Last summer in Tokyo, U.S. gymnast Simone Biles helped shine a spotlight that started this conversation about athletes and mental health. And with other Olympians following suit here at the Winter Games, it's a huge step forward in breaking the stigma around the topic.
You know, mentally as athletes, we're able to overcome a lot, but I think there are times when sometimes it feels like too much. I think for myself, I've always just tried to really focus in on what I think makes me a better skier and a better athlete and a better person. And it definitely, it's not easy every day.
Us athletes don't always like to show our emotions. We don't like to show weakness, and that's true. You never want to appear that you need help. And quite frankly, now it's proving that it's the opposite, and it's good to be able to reach out when you need to.
That's where Dr. Jessica Bartley comes into play. As the Director of Mental Health Services for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, Bartley helps provide mental health resources for Team USA's athletes, and it's a role she understands deeply as a former athlete herself.
When I played soccer, ended up with a significant injury that really ended my career, and I looked around and there weren't a lot of resources. And so I felt really lost. And so once I kind of stumbled upon this field of study, I really wanted to be a resource that I felt like I didn't have.
It's not always something you can do by yourself. You have a team, and it's important to know how to best communicate what you need to that team. And I would say over the last decade, it's something I've been working on, is to really understand my emotions and understand what my needs are, so then I can actually ask for it and ask for help.
Similar to the 2020 Games, Olympic athletes in the 2022 Winter Olympics have also had to navigate the challenges of competing during a pandemic, which mentally can take its own toll.
That definitely, I think, added to a lot of stress for every single one of us.
And so just the anxiety of the COVID testing and thinking of, am I not going to be able to perform, is a different kind of factor to even try to entertain at this point.
You don't really know till you've been through it and you've done it. I had a plan of what I thought was going to happen, but I've learned over multiple Olympics now how to be able to adapt and overcome, because I think if this was my first Games, it would have been really hard to mentally understand how to physically be able to get what I need in order to kind of shut my mind off and go, I'm okay.
Some of the other things too around the support system. And so understanding you don't have spectators in the stands or in the arenas, and that it is kind of limited. A lot of times at the end of a race or at the site of a competition, you have just some of the staff and that's it. And so just a very, very different vibe that I think we've really are trying to make the best of and understand how to continue to support the athletes.
Dr. Bartley and her team will continue to provide these Olympians mental health resources way beyond the closing ceremony, whether it's handling life post-competition or for some transitioning to sports retirement.
Having an onboarding process and offboarding process, making sure athletes are aware of the ups and downs that are going to come throughout their career, whether they're a part of Team USA for a year or for 15. And so I think always looking on to say, look, like, we're always going to be talking. We've got a lot of resources and we don't need to push them maybe immediately, but they are here. And we do want to be able to support you throughout your career and beyond.